What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This here's Legitical Response. We cover political news, keep you up to date, and keep you informed with everything that the government does. Now, we have a major spending problem in this country. I talk about it a lot. $34.6 trillion in debt. Yeah, that's how much our debt is. And, you know, Congress, the federal government, they don't really seem to care anything about fixing that debt. Check this out, you guys. America's debt tops $34 trillion, but a commission to address it appears dead in Congress. Now, I wonder why that would be. Maybe it's because Congress can't do anything but vote in their own interests, to line their own pockets, to say, hey, lobbyists, what are you guys doing? Who cares about the American people? How much money are you going to give me today? Yeah, that's all they seem to do. That's all they seem to care about. It's well past time, the newly elected House Speaker said in October, to establish a bipartisan commission to tackle the federal government's growing $34.6 trillion in debt. The consequences, if we don't act now, are unbearable, he said, echoing warnings from his predecessor and other House Republicans. More than 6 months later, the proposal appears all but dead, extinguished by vocal opposition from both the right and the left. Yeah, because these people can't agree on how to take down the debt. The left, obviously, the people's government, the ones that are looking out for the small guy, want to tax the people into oblivion. And the Republicans, on the other hand, don't want to cut spending at all for some reason. They're worried about taxes, and they don't want to tax you into oblivion. But they don't want to cut spending either, and the House appropriations bills prove that outright with $1.7 trillion deficit spending on a yearly basis. That's year over year. It used to be 1.5. Yeah, it used to be a lot less. You know, back in the 90s, Congress actually balanced the budgets. They were actually able to work with what they had because they were getting plenty of freaking money. Now, oh, if you don't pay your fair share, that's what they want to do. They want to tax the rich. But yeah, trickle-down economics is a thing. You don't have to have that as your base platform as far as your policy goes, but trickle-down economics actually is a thing, and you'll never get rid of it if you have major disparities between the rich and the poor, right? The rich get taxed through the freaking nose. They're going to pass that down. Prices are going to go up. They're going to do everything they can to make as much profit as they can. And if that means raising prices, then that's what they'll do. They'll just call it cost effectiveness or some ridiculousness that they'll come up with. But excessively taxing the rich isn't going to make the poor people more rich. I don't see how these people don't understand that. The collapse underscores an unyielding dynamic in Washington, with lawmakers in both parties loath to consider the unpopular trade-offs that would be necessary to stem the nation's swelling tide of red ink, particularly in an election year. Facing the reality that any fiscal commission would almost certainly suggest that Americans pay more or get less from their government, lawmakers have time and again done what they do so well: punt the problem to the next Congress, and they seem poised to do so again. Many Democrats and left-leaning advocacy groups oppose the commission because they fear it would recommend cuts to Social Security benefits. Well, I'm going to get something out there right off the table. Nobody is ever going to cut Social Security, right? That would be a political suicide, if you will. They would kill their political career if they cut Social Security, because the bulk of the population is going to rely somewhat, if not almost entirely, on Social Security whenever they retire. So if you go start messing with that, yeah, people ain't gonna like that too much at all. So nobody, no politician, because sure, they may vote in the interests of the lobby, but they know that their constituents are the ones that vote them into that power. They can get on TV and lie to people, but if they actually cut Social Security, yeah, you're not going to be able to hide that. You're not going to be able to lie that away, because your voting record is posted online. Go to congress.gov, look up your congressman, and check out their voting record. I recommend people do this all the damn time. And if you don't like your congressman's voting record, don't vote for them again. Don't vote for them just because they're the Republican. Vote for a different Republican. Vote for the opposition if you got to. I say this a lot. Some Republicans and right-leaning groups are against it as well, fearing the panel would recommend tax increases. They've labeled the commission a tax trap. Yeah, I don't understand how these people can't come to some sort of consensus that, sure, you can cut the deficit spending and not raise taxes. You got to have some cuts in some places. See, they want to talk about cutting Social Security. You don't have to cut Social Security. How about cut some of these other welfare programs? How about cut some of this earmarks that you guys put into these bills, to these appropriations bills where they don't belong? How about you cut defense spending? How about you don't spend
$156,000 for the Hartford Gay and Lesbian Health Collective, $1.1 million for an EV innovation hub, $2 million Oregon clinic that provides hormone therapy to kids, $850,000 for LGBTQ senior housing in Massachusetts. Yes, gay senior housing. Good job, Republicans. That's what you're funding. $400,000 for Briar Patch Youth Services in Wisconsin. You're funding it. You own it. $400,000 to the Garden State Equality Education Fund in New Jersey. $5 million for Mary's Center for Maternal and Child Care in Maryland. $1 million for the Inner City Muslim Network, which calls for the destruction of Israel. $1.6 million for Cape Cod electric buses. $350,000 for theater programs, $567,000 for an inclusive playground. What is an inclusive playground? I don't even know what an inclusive playground is. $650,000 for the Dartmouth, Hitchcock, Nashua, New Hampshire, also provides late terms abortion. $740,000 for increasing diversity in state hiring for the state of Maryland. $870,000 for a group that wants to defund the police in Connecticut. $655,000 for Massachusetts Women of Color Coalition, Inc. I don't even know what that is. I could keep going.
$1.5 million to encourage video gaming in New York. How about you cut some of that stuff out? You don't need to spend in a $1.7 trillion deficit. How about you force the federal government, the executive branch, to not write up a deficit appropriations package? How about that? I'm disappointed that we haven't got as much momentum as I thought we would, said Rep. Jody Arrington, the Republican chairman of the House Budget Committee. The Speaker supported it, endorsed it from the outset. But I think there are some outside groups that have weighed in that have said that this is a backdoor way to raise taxes, and it scared me. It scared some of my Republican colleagues. Senator Joe Manchin, sponsor of the Debt Commission bill in the Senate, was even more pessimistic. No one seems to care, Manchin said. It's a shame, $34.6 trillion in debt. No one cares about it. No, everybody cares about it. They just can't seem to agree how to fix it because none of you guys want to stop the deficit spending, for God's sakes. We don't have to spend in a deficit. I'll say that once again. They only care about the lobbyists. That's why they vote for these appropriations bills. So Manchin can get up there and lie all he wants to, saying nobody cares. Everybody cares when it comes to talking to the American people. But your voting record is what counts. And I can promise you, Joe Manchin voted for that $1.7 trillion deficit spending package. Yeah, it's guaranteed. The Debt Commission legislation, modeled after previous efforts, would create a 16-member panel to recommend steps that could be taken to balance the federal budget at the earliest reasonable date and improve a long-term fiscal health of Medicare and Social Security. The commission would have 16 members, 12 from Congress, evenly divided by party, and 4 outside experts without voting power. The GOP-controlled House Budget Committee advances the bill in a 22-12 vote. The fiscal realities that would face any commission are well documented at center to a large extent on Social Security and Medicare, which consume an ever-growing share of the federal budget, and interest payments on the nation's debt. That is something that the interest payments on the nation's debt are rivaling the defense budget, for God's sakes. That is a lot of money. So, yeah, we need to stop all this printing of money, this raising of the debt ceiling, all this junk. Yeah, your Congress, your Senate, and your president signed in a debt ceiling raise that pretty much gave us an unlimited amount of credit. That's ridiculous, y'all. You know, if we keep going like this, soon we'll be paying, all of our taxes are going to be going to paying off the interest payments on this. That's stupid. We need new people in Congress. I say it all the time. For Social Security, the reserve for the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund will run out in 2033. At that point, the program will have enough tax revenue coming in to pay about 79% of scheduled benefits. For Medicare, the trust fund covering inpatient hospital stays, hospice care, and stays at skilled nursing facilities has sufficient funds to pay full benefits until 2036. At that point, 11% spending cuts would be required to match incoming revenue. The last fiscal commission over a decade ago, chaired by Erskine Bowles and Alan Simpson, recommended $4 trillion in deficit reduction over the course of a decade through a combination of tax increase and painful spending cuts. But the 11-7 vote in favor of the package was not enough to force Congress to consider it back in 2010. Supporters of the new debt panel noted that they modeled their bill on something that has succeeded in the past: commissions to consolidate the nation's military bases. The new commission would work under a similar structure, with legislation requiring each chamber to vote on its final proposal expeditiously. Still, Democratic lawmakers and the White House are skeptical of forming a debt commission. Shalon DeYoung, director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, told lawmakers in a recent hearing that the administration was concerned that the one thing on the table for the commission would be Social Security benefit cuts, not asking higher income Americans to pay taxes. Why do they always go to that? It's like they're fear-mongering. Oh, they're going to cut Social Security to y'all. They're going to cut Social Security. But you go to any politician, ask them, hey, what do you think about cutting Social Security? And they will outright tell you, no. That's a terrible idea. Nobody would go for that. We would be voted out of Congress. Maybe they need to do that because we need new congressmen once again. It will be borne on the backs of those who paid into the system and rely on this program to retire in peace, Young said. More than 100 Democratic lawmakers also signed onto a letter opposing the commission back in January, as powerful groups such as the AFL-CIO and AARP voiced their concerns. When Republican-aligned groups also came out against the bill, including Americans for Tax Reform and the Club for Growth, prospects for moving ahead dampened considerably. Their opposition weakened GOP's leadership's leverage in attaching the commission to an annual spending bill or other must-pass measures. There's no guarantee about the outcome. I think that's what scares most people, and this town likes to know what the outcome is, said the House bill's author, Rep. Bill. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform, said any mechanism that allows for tax increases undermines former President Donald Trump and other Republicans running for office on a platform of cutting taxes. So these people care more about getting a politician in office than they do about fixing our problems that we have in America. That's what he's telling you. He cares more that Donald Trump gets into office than he does about fixing the country. Right? So Donald Trump says he's going to fix the country. But can Donald Trump fix the country? No. It has to be Congress. That's what I can't seem to get across to people. Congress is the most powerful institution in this country. They can promote the most change. They have the ability to take us out of debt, to balance the budget. They have the ability to shut the federal government down, to fix the problems we have in Washington, D.C., but they're not willing to do so because they don't want to get booted from office, because they care more about lining their own pockets than they do about fixing the country. So anytime they get up on national television and tell you they care about fixing this country and blah, 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 national debt and border and all this other BS, they're lying. They don't care about that. They only care about what the lobbyists think and how much money the lobbyists are going to give them. The lawmakers opposing a commission that would actually work toward fixing the problems because they care about taxes or they care about this. Well, guess what? You same people have to vote for these things. If they bring a proposal, you have to vote it down. If it has too many tax increases, vote it down. If it has too many cuts to Social Security, vote it down, for God's sakes. But get the damn commission approved and get the commission working on solutions. But instead, you're going to sit here and virtue signal and point fingers and act like you give a damn when all your actions show that you could care less about fixing the problems of this country. It just blows my freaking mind that these people could seem to care less, but they will sit there and tell you that that's the only thing they care about. How about show it? How about prove it? Do something to fix it, for God's sakes. Once again, $1.7 trillion deficit spending. Share this video with anybody and everybody you can. Make sure the congressmen see this. Make sure they see just how pissed we are about their ineptitude to fix the problems of this country. You can get up there on TV and say anything and everything you want to, but it doesn't matter when you don't have the results to back it up. Results matter in this country. Was it Missouri, the show me state? I could have that wrong, I'm not sure, but yeah, how about prove it? How about show us instead of just talking about it? He said the focus must be strictly on spending reductions and tax increases are what politicians do instead of making decisions and hard choices. Yeah, I totally agree. That's what I just ranted about. The modern Republican Party is not going to put tax increases on the table as if they were part of the solution to anything, Norquist said. Tax increases solve no problem. I agree. They don't. That approach also makes Democrats such as Rep. Lloyd Doggett of Texas wary of a commission. We cannot solve our problems by cutting entirely. It's got to be with some additional revenue. Unless revenues are very much on the table, I'm not for anything. It has to be both, Doggett said. No, it doesn't. The government is bloated. The government spends way too much. How about get rid of the education department? They spend a lot of money. How about we get rid of the Federal Reserve? They have ruined this country outright with their ridiculousness. How about we get rid of some of these departments that really don't matter? Like the EPA. What are they actually doing? They're making it harder for companies to do anything. They're not going to fix the freaking climate. They're just taking your tax dollars and spending it on stuff that's not going to work, giving subsidies to solar farms and to wind farms and all this other BS that will never be sustainable, that will never be put into practice to give us a sustainable electric grid. No, the EPA doesn't do anything but make it hard for farmers to farm. They don't do anything but make it harder for oil refineries to make gasoline. That's all they do. They spend way too much money. Cut these programs. Cut some of this BS. We can do it with cuts, for God's sakes. The government gets, I don't know how many trillions of dollars in taxes. You mean to tell me this guy thinks that they can't run the government without increasing taxes from an already insane tax policy, tax code that we have in this country? That's what he is telling you. That's what the Democrats are trying to tell you. That spending cuts can't fix a spending problem. Yeah, that's outright ridiculous. And just pure stupidity coming from the Democrats, right? But Republicans sit on their laurels and don't do anything about it. Republicans are just as bad as Democrats. You know, we could cut billions from defense spending. We don't need such a bloated army. We don't need to be the world police. We don't need $60 billion for Ukraine, $17 billion for Israel. They are doing just fine on their own. Israel is. I know Ukraine isn't, but we're sending money to a damn corrupt nation that we don't need to be. Hey, you know, I would be much better off if we give that $60 billion to 60 different homeless people. Yeah, that would make me more satisfied than sending it to a corrupt nation to defend off another corrupt nation. for God's sakes. But these people are just outright ridiculous. They don't listen to arguments, especially the left. They don't listen to arguments. They don't listen to the other side. They only think that their solutions are the only solutions. And they're just unwilling to do anything about it. Like I said, we need new congressmen. We need people in there that are going to work together to get some legislation, at least the spending problems, right? We need to fix these spending problems. That is the biggest issue facing America right now. It is the biggest existential threat that we have to the country. Our biggest existential threat is Congress and the people of Congress, because they're unwilling to do anything except continue the $1.7 trillion deficit spending. That's all they seem to care about. But I think I've ranted for long enough on this. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Do you have any good ideas on how to fix Congress? Let me know what you think. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.